Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Tomorrow night, President Obama will deliver his second State of the Union address before Congress. He is expected to talk about rebuilding the economy and is expected to defend his health care plan, which the House of Representatives voted to repeal last week. Joining us to discuss the president's speech and Mayor Bloomberg's push for Congress to crack down on gun background checks are two members of the New York City congressional delegation. We've got Republican Congressman Michael Grimm, who represents Staten Island and part of Brooklyn, and Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner, who represents parts of Brooklyn and Queens. Welcome to both of you. Thanks. And congratulations to you. Your first appearance as a congressman here.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, as a matter of fact. The mayor had a big press conference today in the rotunda of City Hall. A number of victims of gun violence and their family members, including Martin Luther King III, calling for really enactment or enforcement provisions of laws that have been on the books for a long time. What do you think about that?
I think they're absolutely right, and I couldn't agree more on this aspect. If you look at a lot of the things over the last several years in this country, whether it be housing, whether it be the Wall Street, there have been laws on the books that hasn't been proper oversight and there hasn't been enough enforcement. We need to look at that before we start legislating and looking at other things. Let's make what we have work. Let's make it work well. So I stand with the mayor on this, which is something a bit unique. So I think he is correct. We have to work with making what we have efficient and effective, and then we can talk about other steps.
And so if a law comes forward or a bill comes forward to close the so-called gun show loophole, where people don't have to do the kind of background checks that you would do buying over the counter at one of these trade shows, you would support that?
Well, again, it depends. And when I say it depends on, I do think there have to be exemptions for if my father was still alive and he wanted to sell me his gun, we need to work on that a little bit. But again, I think we have to emphasize the fact that what we have right now isn't working as efficiently and as effective as it should be. Let's start there, and then we can talk about moving forward, enhancements or more legislation. But let's get what we have to work as best as it can, and then I'm ready to have that discussion.
Congressman Weiner.
The problem with that is that there are things that are in the present law that need to be changed. For example, states don't need to share information with other states about registrations and about documents that they have that might show that someone who went from Colorado to New York had a background check and it came up that he had a hit. So much of the documentation we have on guns are on paper and pen. Rather than having them, the FBI has wanted for the longest time to be able to get these things mechanized. We have a problem in this country, and it comes down to three letters, the NRA. They stop the reasonable updating of our system to stop crazy people from getting guns and stop anyone from getting, from us having laws that say things like, having a 20, 30, 50, 70 round clip, having cop killer bullets, have bullets that are intended for the sole purpose of harming people. These types of reasonable restrictions don't get in place, and the steps we need to take to update the present laws to keep up with 21st century technology don't happen either. So to say, well, our present laws, let's enforce them first, we'd like to. The FBI says we can't because we're stuck in the 1970s technology.
As a former FBI agent, what do you?
No, I want to, well, there's a couple of things I want to comment. I don't think the problem is the NRA. I don't think we should demonize the NRA here. I think that someone that supports the Constitution and the Second Amendment, I have to somewhat step up and say that it's not the NRA. But at the same time, I do agree the FBI does need the tools to be effective. So again, I think there are things in place. Are they working properly? Are they working efficiently? No. We need to take those steps to bring us into the modern times. I completely agree with that. Our technology needs to be upgraded. Our system needs to be better. But by demonizing the NRA, I don't think that's the way we get there. I think we have to be pragmatic and prudent and make the appropriate steps.
Okay. Well, we'll see whether or not a bill emerges out of it. But the mayor, of course, making a very passionate. We carried it live earlier today, and it was quite an emotional scene there at City Hall. Let's talk a little bit about the repeal of the healthcare law. Anthony Weiner was on the floor recently, serving up some red meat. It was very partisan. It was very passionate, as much of this debate has been. Let's take a listen.
There have been basically three formations of the argument by the Republicans. First, they start by making stuff up. You kind of have to wonder if any of them actually read the bill. 130,000 new agencies, not true. New IRS agents, not true. Death panels, not true. Members aren't covered, not true. No tort reform in it, not true. You know, I want to just advise people watching at home playing that now popular drinking game of you take a shot whenever the Republicans say something that's not true. please assign a designated driver. This is going to be a long afternoon.
And of course, the vote went against you later that afternoon and into the evening. Anything you would change about the tone of that? Is this where we are right now?
Well, it was no. I mean, it's frankly the debate was devoid, just like so much of the campaign was, of actual facts about the health care bill. I mean, what it comes down to is a fairly simple proposition that it costs us less as citizens, as taxpayers, as people who pay premiums, to provide people a subsidy to buy insurance than to treat them in hospital emergency rooms. We have 17 fewer hospitals in New York since the year 2000 because of the unsustainable math. We pay $8 billion in city taxes to cover the uninsured and the underinsured. It just doesn't make any sense. But if you listen to the debate on the House floor, people, frankly, were making things up left and right. I had a list of them. It was a playful suggestion at the end there, but it really is remarkable how much of this debate has been dominated by misstatements, untruths, and just out-and-out lies.
Now, your role in the debate, Congressman Grimm, you campaigned on
Yes.
repeal. You voted for repeal.
Yes.
What do you think about what the congressman just said?
Well, I think I have to agree again with the congressman. There have been things that have not been true. I've looked at the bill, and I think the congressman will agree. There's $115 billion needed to implement the bill. That's not in what the CBO is scoring. There's double counting of Social Security, there's double counting of Medicare, and then the doctor fix that we all know has to be dealt with, that was taken out and not scored in the CBO scoring. What do I tell my seniors? What do you, Anthony, tell your seniors when we're taking $206 billion out of Medicare Advantage? There are a lot of things that are wrong with this bill. At the end of the day, I have yet to meet any small business owner, anyone in business that thinks this is going to be good for their business. I have yet to meet a doctor that thinks this is a good plan. No one has explained to me, and I'll open the floor up and I will yield, if you can explain to me, where are the extra healthcare professionals going to come from? There's a shortage of doctors now, and because of this legislation, there'll be more. A shortage of healthcare professionals all the way around from nurses. We're now putting more people into healthcare, but no one's explaining where that extra healthcare is going to, where the professionals are going to come from, which can mean only one thing: less quality and a rationing of care.
Before I let him respond,
that's unacceptable.
Is your point then that is your vote for repeal and your statement? Do you think that this is a tactic to get some of these problems fixed, or do you just want to see the whole thing go away?
No. I think that you have to deal with. I don't think that Congressman Weiner or myself would say that we don't want people to have insurance. We don't want people to have quality health care. Of course we do. It's the manner in which we get there that is the debate. And I think that there are a lot of things we need to look at, like tort reform. I don't see major tort reform in this bill. If you can bring my attention to it, that's great. But that's one of the things we need to do. There's a lot of things we can do without being an economy-crushing, job-killing bill. And I'll leave with this. It does create a fourth entitlement. And we all agree that the three entitlements we have now are going broke. They're going bankrupt. A fourth entitlement simply isn't sustainable.
I don't know if we all agree on that.
There's a lot of work to do here to clean up some of the things my friend said. First of all, many small businesses, dozens of them on Staten Island, are getting a tax benefit right now to offer health care to their workers, something the Republicans have supported for years, offer tax incentives. That's in the bill. You're repealing that. Secondly, this notion is where our seniors going to benefit from Medicare Advantage coming under tougher control. The one element of health care that's going down this year, Medicare Advantage rates are down this year. Everything else is going up. Finally, this notion about where the doctors are coming from. We are New York is a healthcare economy. Where is it? In the bill, there are additional teaching hospital slots. Good for New York jobs, good for Staten Island jobs. Secondly, the funding that's coming into New York that's going to help prevent the closures of hospitals. For years, residents of Staten Island said, we want an HHC hospital in Staten Island. If this is repealed, it's going to cost $3 billion in cuts to New York City. Look, the fact of the matter is this job-crushing, job-killing, we've got to, at this point, let's move the rhetoric aside and let's realize something. This is a fairly simple mathematics problem. We cannot continue to provide people who are uninsured care in hospital emergency rooms where residents of Staten Island and Brooklyn, residents of Queens and Brooklyn are paying for it. They are saying enough. I'm paying for it in higher rates. I'm paying for it in taxes for unreimbursed care. So we're saying let's try to do something smarter. Let's try to offer people subsidies so they go buy private insurance plans. We aggregate the cost. All of our costs come down. And the taxpayers of New York City, you want to talk about things that aren't counted in the CBO score? Not a single dime is counted of what it saves in state and local. And it's going to save us an enormous amount of money. If you care about jobs in New York City, you have to be supportive of the healthcare industry, and this bill is the single biggest bill to help increase the number of training for primary care doctors, primary nurses in American history. So that's where this is.
If that was true, if that was so good, then why did the leadership that enacted this legislation, that wrote this legislation, exempt themselves and the committee leadership?
That's not true.
It is true.
That was one of the lies. No committee leadership. Who do you mean, members of Congress?
Members of Congress, the
Members of
leadership,
Congress?
not the regular members of Congress. Like I will be put in
That's wrong.
to the exchange
That's
in
wrong.
2014.
Congressman Grimm, I love you, but that's
Okay.
wrong. That's
All right.
factually wrong. Now, here's what I will
Okay.
offer to do, and I recognize you've come off a tough campaign, and I commend you for doing it. And I hope you have you're successful, because it's going to be good for New
Thank
York
you.
if you are. But the fact is, until we hack away at some of the things that are just not true in the bill, we're not going to be able to have an honest debate. Every single member of Congress, which are now covered by the Federal Employees Health Benefits Plan, what we're going to be doing is going into a program that's very similar to it, which is these exchanges coming in 2014. Now, all I ask, why don't all Americans get that option? That's what this bill would allow them to do.
Well, if we're going to have an honest, open debate, then why don't we talk about why weren't all these numbers included in the CBO score? Why is it scored over 10 years, which is 10 years of taxes, but 6 years? Six
That's
years
not true.
of
We have
coverage.
benefits today. The donut hole being covered today. Subsidies for small business covered today. That 10-year 6 thing is a lie.
It's not. It's not.
I can
a
tell you
lie.
right
I've read
now.
the bill
How
myself.
about this?
It's
How
not
about
a
this?
lie.
Congressman Grimm, if I can.
Is it being
how about
implemented
this?
now? It's fully being
here's what
implemented
I
in
will pledge-
2014.
Here's what I will pledge to do.
Okay.
I will tell you the names of the businesses on Staten Island that are getting tax benefits because of this bill that you want to take away. How about that?
Fair enough.
I will tell you the names
That's
of those
fine.
businesses.
And I can give you
Today.
and I will give you a list today of all the business owners who have already brought in their premiums and shown that healthcare is skyrocketing because
Hold
of
on a
this bill.
second. Hold on a
It's
second.
already going up.
Yes, but also the sun came out today. It doesn't mean anything to do with the health care bill.
It
Actually,
does.
the rates that went up
Premiums are
this year,
going up.
rates have gone up this year actually less than they've gone in past years. Why? Because under the bill, we gave state insurance commissioners more authority on holding insurance companies accountable. It went up 20, 22, 24, and this year it went up 12. Now you can say, oh, rates went up because of the bill. Yes, actually rates are actually growing slower because of the bill. The problem that we have here is that we all acknowledge that there is this problem. Now something has been done, and instead of saying, here's what our alternative is, if you are looking, Arrow, for the Republican alternative, good luck with that.
Well,
there is no Republican alternative.
I completely disagree.
How come it's not on the floor?
Gentlemen, we're going to leave that for another time. In our last minute, I wanted to ask you something about the State of the Union address. Sure. There's been this movement to try and increase bipartisanship by having members of different parties sit together. I know you guys are not going to be sitting together, but you are participating in this. Tell us who you'll be with and whether or not you think it's symbolic or points to something better.
I'm actually sitting with Congressman Meeks.
Okay, of Queens, and you?
This guy, Peter King, I've heard something
This guy,
about.
Peter King, right, I heard you
He's
talking
actually,
about
well,
him.
I'm going to be sitting on the Republican side of the aisle, so not only is he going to be my seatmate, but he's also my security detail.
Good enough. And is it just symbolism, or is this something the beginning of something?
I don't know. Look, it is. I mean, symbolism, but I wouldn't say just symbolism. I think it kind of minimizes. I think a certain level of symbolic coming together is helpful. I mean, look, the real thing that's going to happen at the speech is the speech. And I think that it is too much to ask that Peter King and I are cheering at the same moments. But I don't think, I think it's fine. But I think we have to draw, Congressman Grimm and I have respect for one another. We have philosophical disagreements and political disagreements. There's nothing wrong with having this. If there was, you'd be out of business. You wouldn't have a show to put on. But the question is, can we do it in a way that's respectful and thoughtful? And I think that's what all of us aspire to.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's one of the reasons why I'm going to sit with Congressman Meeks. It's not just symbolic. It's an opportunity for me to speak one-on-one and not necessarily about a piece of legislation, but about things like how's your family and what did you do this weekend? Because we are people. Sure, we're members of Congress, but we're also people, and we have the same concerns that everyone else has. And to discuss the game yesterday and discuss how your wife is doing and all of that is very important, because that's how that common thread comes together, and the civility that we have and the respect that we have for each other can continue and grow.
Okay, very good. Thanks for having a civil debate over a very hot topic, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Thanks.
It's time for a break, folks. Still to come, we're going to ask the Teachers Union President, Michael Mulgrew, why he is opposed to giving the mayor more control over teacher layoffs. And we will ask our Consultants Corner what advice they would give President Obama for tomorrow's State of the Union address. Stay with us.